What is the purpose of words? We are in a series simply entitled Words, and we are exploring the power, purpose, and promise of words. We use words every day, both to talk to ourselves and talk to others. But do we really understand why they exist and why it is so important to use the right word in the right moment? In the first episode, I talked about the power of words and how we need to think deeply about our words in order to have the best impact on the people that you lead and influence. We also talked about how it's so important to choose the right words in our own self-talk because words have power to build up or to tear down. In this episode, I want to talk to you about the purpose of words. Some people use words to be cynical. Some people use words to criticize. I've never forgotten what my grandmother ingrained in my mind through this quote. She said, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. But in today's culture, a lot of people wake up looking for negative and destructive things to say and also do, almost like they thought there was a prize or money for pointing out problems versus working to be a part of the solution and speaking from a heart of grace. While we could probably come up with many reasons for why we have words, I think this simple definition of the purpose of words is very practical. The purpose of words is to help find courage, purpose, and meaning in any moment. Often, that involves saying the right word in the right moment to another person. At other times, it involves you discovering the right word for yourself to help you process your thoughts and emotions and make sense of the situation. You can build on this definition to ask yourself in any situation, do the words I'm getting ready to speak help another person obtain courage, find purpose, and or discover meaning in their lives? I've always thought words can be a force multiplier in the lives of people when used in the right way. Words can speak life, hope, truth, purpose, joy, and encouragement when leveraged in the right way. The thing about words is they spring up from what's going on in our heart. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. From the heart comes our intentions, our motivations, and our concern for others. We must guard it to make sure that what comes out of our mouths is drawn from a pure and life-giving well, a pure and grace-filled heart. The best leaders in sports, business, and life use words that help people become who they were created to be. They know how to encourage, to edify, to challenge, and to provide the right amount of positive and constructive feedback to help people grow and become their best. In my research and experience in working with high-performing leaders, you want to try and achieve a ratio of at least 3-to-1 in terms of positive to constructive feedback. The best leaders are able to reach 5 or even 8-to-1 because they know their people and they know how to leverage their words. The other key factor related to giving feedback is that all of it, positive and constructive, should be focused on what the great leadership expert and author Warren Bennis calls their potential to be. When you say things, they need to have a purpose, and the purpose should be to help the person you are leading or influencing maximize their potential. And when you frame your feedback in this context, the other person is going to be much more receptive to not only receiving it, but also applying it and incorporating it into their lives. I love what Ephesians 4:29 says about our words, especially as it relates to feedback. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. I want to give you 3 C's to help you remember the purpose of words. The first C is communicate. Words help us communicate our thoughts, feelings, ideas, and insight. We have a plethora of platforms to use to communicate. And as we said in the first episode of this podcast series, we need to use them in the right way because words have power. Words can speak to us, they can speak for us, and they can speak through us. I love the Bible. It's God's word to us and speaks truth and life and hope, joy and purpose to us. It's the first place I go to every day to receive guidance. I've always loved music, and especially those songs that have incredible lyrics. And songs often communicate our feelings and offer anthems for us when we don't know what to say. In all of our interactions, we need to make sure that we use our words to communicate effectively and not just say things flippantly without the right intention. The second C I want to give you is connect. One way to connect with our words is to show empathy. Effective listening is a key part of showing empathy, and using words is just as important. Empathic listening results in you being able to not only restate and summarize the facts of what somebody else is saying, but also to reflect the feelings that are being expressed. When you do that, you can create a true connection with that other person because they feel seen and heard and understood. When I think about the word connect, I think about John Maxwell, who wrote a great book entitled Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. I love the title of this book because we have more ways to communicate than we have ever had. Yet with all of these channels, we often don't connect with the people we are talking to, or maybe better said, talking at. As you think about your week and the sphere of influence that you have and the people that you will encounter, I want to give you some questions that I personally use to help me in the coaching that I do and with the groups that I get to speak to. And these are questions that you can ask when you're talking to somebody. First of all, who are they? Second question is, what's their story? What's the most important thing to them as you're talking to them? What are their priorities? What are their strengths? What are they passionate about? Or if you don't like passion, maybe what energizes them, and thinking about that. What do they need from me in that moment? Here's another question. How can I help them achieve their goals? How can I help them become the person God created them to be? These are all great questions to think about, and we can leverage these questions to not just communicate, but to truly connect with others. And words help us to do that. The third C I want to give you is to create. I love how God spoke creation into existence to begin the story of life. He used his words to create, giving us an example about how powerful words can be. We can use our words to create. Andy Crouch often talks about creating culture and being culturally responsible for what God has placed in our hands and within our sphere of influence. Words can help us create culture that helps others flourish. For some of you, that may be in the form of speaking and writing books. For others, you may not have a physical platform that you will be standing on to speak, but you have other platforms like the email that you send to encourage a person you're leading on your team, or the text message that you send to a friend to let them know you're praying for them. Words help us to create moments of impact, and we must use them in the right way to help others flourish. The fourth C I want to give you is commit. I often tell the athletes I work with on mental game principles and performance that every action begins with a thought. We've added to that over time to say that every action begins with a thought and is sustained by a commitment. Our commitments help us sustain our growth and movement toward an action or a goal. And commitments begin with words. It may be a commitment to yourself or a commitment to someone else. You may write them down in a journal or declare them verbally out loud. But no matter how you do it, commitments have power when they are comprised of the right words. Words that have depth, meaning, and power. We recently conducted our first Breakthrough Moments experience, and we'll be offering more in the future. And it was a retreat, and we had attendees write down 3 commitments that they were going to make as a result of that day and what they had learned. I encourage you to make commitments yourself based on powerful and purposeful words, because they can help you achieve your goals and become your best. And we all want to become our best and achieve greatness. Words have purpose, so we need to be responsible with our words and connect our words to the God who gave us breath to speak them. He created you to connect with others in community and wants to speak a word through you. And when you get out of the way and allow him to speak through you, you truly can make the most of your moments.